Oi, bet you never thought there'd be another Not Jake tutorial again. Well, you thought wrong, because today we're here to talk about one of the most important jobs in the early game, especially for beginners, being follow Dimitri. This is kind of an extremely difficult job to learn, and it's extremely punishing with how much time it will lose you when you're learning. And it's probably the most difficult job regarding GSMing or guard spawn manipulation. And I'm going to try to just basically watch a playthrough of the job from my PB here and kind of explain the most important things as we go along. This is going to be live, so it's going to be a bit scuffed as we go, but whatever. So, finishing follow job beforehand, bug Dimitri's office. You're going to want to load to get back to the safe house, and then mash to bring Sly out. Now, even getting to the job trigger, we're going to GSM. So let me talk a tiny bit about GSMing. Whereas GSMing is generally the idea that the game cannot spawn guards in a direction that the camera isn't facing. So if you have the camera facing away from the direction you want to go, guards will typically spawn where you can see them. Ideally, or normally, to be even more specific, the game, we have our camera facing this way. So the game is going to try to spawn guards on like the very edge of the screen. Each map kind of has, pretty standard spawn points that are pretty consistent. But even veteran runners will sometimes be surprised by a weird guard spawn that they didn't expect. And usually it's because of GSMing, which is pretty complicated. But we're going to leave our camera facing this way and make this movement blind, which is something you're going to have to practice and get used to. All the blind movement in this game is going to be hard at first, but just keep with it and eventually it'll feel pretty natural. Now, the first thing you want to notice here is guard spawn on the right here, flashlight, and another spawn on the left. The game can never have more than 2 flashlight guards loaded in at a time, except in episode 8, which is the exception. So by seeing those 2 flashlight guards there, we know we're good and we can turn the camera to face where we're going and square boost into the trigger. Small cutscene here, nothing too important. Now, with the movement to this bell, there's like a million different small ways you can do it. It's very minuscule. What I do recommend is not missing the bell. So looking at this, typically the most standard way is to run at it and square boost into it. If I was aiming a little bit more left, would have hit it no problem. I've also seen people kind of run an angle across this bridge and just swipe while running. The hitbox for the bell is pretty big, so missing it will happen, but it's probably bigger than you would think just looking at it. So, no biggie, we summon Dimitri. Now it's showtime. We need to farm a lot of coins in order to purchase the gadgets we want throughout the run. And it's kind of going to be nonstop GSMing and breaking items throughout this entire 2-minute and 30 or 40-second auto scroller here. So I guess the first thing I'll say is that if you watch a bunch of different runners runs of this, everyone will do things slightly differently. So if there's an area that you're still having trouble with after watching this video, feel free to check out some other runners. They might do it a little differently, or experiment yourself and come up with some things. So first things first, glitch high jump to the right, collect this bench. It's pretty important here that, at least I think, that I like to hold my camera so it's facing pretty much directly left, which will, avoid spawning guards where we're going next. So climb up here, break this. There's going to be a lot of that movement right there you see where you break something and then you keep holding square to do a spin attack to quickly collect the coins and move on to where you want to go. So if you've done that first bit of movement really fast, you can see looking at the HUD here that it's going to, show that we're close to Dimitri with a little bit of that vibrate there. So if you've done those first 2 things really fast, you can't sprint or Dimitri might hear you. I don't think he can hear you if you break this thing, but I usually wait a tiny bit anyways. It's okay. You're not in the biggest rush right at the beginning here, so it's no biggie. Take that. Now, there can be two benches here, one where I'm mousing over, and this is something that potentially my GSM is not the most optimal for. I do get two benches sometimes, but I think you'll always get at least one. I don't think it's possible to get zero, but break any benches you see here. Spend attack, keeping my camera facing basically the exact opposite way Sly's going. And we're gonna climb up here. I took that kind of wide in the sense that the balcony or like overhang thing that we're gonna bounce on, I'm pretty far to the left of it. If you're like really slow up to this point, or you're like too far left, you can get too far away from Dimitri and fail. So I might have been cutting it a little closer, so maybe try to hug it a bit closer. But glitch high jump up just for consistency. Break these two things. Spin. That got a little out of control there. That's probably not the best, but it's okay. That tells me that in this upcoming section here, I'm going to have to be a little faster than maybe you could be if I hadn't messed up and done that. I could have been more thorough and made sure to get a few extra coins. But coming into this section, we're keeping our camera facing away from the plaza, and we see one guard here, which is really good because probably one of the most important GSM parts that can fail is coming up. So by seeing that we spawned a guard here, we have our camera to the left, so there potentially, I've seen some guards also spawn like on this lower section as well, so that maybe we're getting a second guard there. I don't really know, but seeing this one guard's good. Drop down with the triangle, break these things. I let my camera go a little bit left, but I'm still trying to hold it right. This stuff is going to be difficult at first. This is going to have to be a job that you grind out in practice, but keep at it. Breaking all these things. There's quite a few things you can break here. Now, if your GSM didn't work out, there can be a guard in this road here, which can be awful because he can prevent you from farming these 4 breakables, which are really nice. You get a ton of coins there. But you can see he didn't spawn there. He spawned further back, so we're chilling. Making our way across this plaza. Now, just like the 2 benches earlier, there's a couple items that can or cannot be here. Right here, there can be a bench sometimes. Didn't get it that time. No biggie. Break those 2 things. Break these things, and that thing will break twice, so make sure you farm that. Keeping our camera away from Dimitri. It'd be really nice to maybe have like a map or something to show you, but Dimitri is now basically like the opposite direction we're showing our camera. And I'm pretty sure that it's like, as long as you're hitting all those farming spots that I just hit, I don't think it's like possible to be too early to here, as long as you're collecting the coins and breaking all those things. To my knowledge, I don't think you have to worry too much about being too fast. But so this part might not look like it's worthy of comment, but in Sly 2, the camera is a physical object, and it can be really common that when you're trying to jump up this car onto this roof, that the camera will get stuck on the roof and it will like turn sideways, which is why when I was getting on the car, you can see I really land on like the farthest point of the car. Like I'm not in the center or like close to the wall at all. That's to try to give the camera a tiny bit of space there. You can mess with it and try to figure out what works best for you. But breaking this stuff, now sometimes there can be a flashlight guard spawn here. If that happens, I would suggest maybe in the movement a bit earlier to try to hold your camera a bit more left than you previously had. But if there's a flashlight guard here, I don't really think it's the end of the world. Don't quote me on this. There's a chance you can stealth slam him and Dimitri won't hear you, but that will put you pretty like behind pace. Like that's pretty slow. But we break this one thing on the roof. No guard here, so we're chilling. Take that thing. And again, that's kind of another roof flip the camera can get stuck on, but that one's not too bad. And we're moving down, keeping our camera like here. So we see a guard spawn there. That's really good. And Dimitri. One thing that hasn't really like a concern at all in this level up until now is that if a guard manages to spawn in front of Dimitri, he can like block Dimitri's movements, like really slowing him down. which in this upcoming part where we're going to try to form a lot of coins quickly, it can be a problem. You can accidentally get too far away from Dimitri because he's not moving as fast as he can be or should be. So you can see that while we're breaking these two things here, you can still see the guard in the back just barely with this 240p quality. That's a good sign. So at this part, this is the scary thing where this roof kind of obscures the road down there a little bit, and sometimes if you didn't spawn a guard way back there, or even if you did, sometimes a flashlight guard will spawn here in front of Dimitri, and that's when you kind of have to really pace yourself and take some precautions in order to not go too fast in this next part, because that will fail you. But there's no flashlight guard here, we're chilling. Sometimes they'll spawn on the left here, but I don't see one. But at this part, the visual cue that I personally use after breaking those two things is I'm waiting for Dimitri's marker here to pass by this sunroof, window, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. As soon as it goes past there, I feel pretty confident that if I do this next section and I don't completely blitz through it, I won't get too far away from him. I'll be on a good pace. So again, keeping your camera facing away, back towards the courtyard or whatever, the center of town. This movement on the car and stuff can be a little tricky. A glitch I jump there to just get to the fence when you space it out is pretty good. If your camera is too far left when you're approaching here, you can spawn small guards on this patio, which is just disaster nightmare scenario. If you're really lucky, you can maybe get away with it without failing the job, but it's pretty doomed. At least your coin count should be doomed. But there's a lot of stuff to farm here, and you don't really have to worry too much about any of this stuff in the beginning. Now this thing is if you're on too fast of a pace, you got all those coins really fast, and maybe you jump down to this patio a little earlier than you should. This thing is getting very close to getting too far away from Dimitri. So a strat that I kind of came up with is that if you try to press square and hit this thing, it can be annoying. It'll take 2 or 3 swings to break it and get the coins. So I've started doing a triangle dive to break it and get the coins that way, which lets you stay further right, so you don't have to worry about failing the job or whatever, which is nice. And we're coming down here, keeping our camera. You imagine this area surrounding the water tower. There's the patio, and now there's the courtyard. We always want to keep our camera pointed away from the water tower, basically. In this section, we point it really far down because there's a wall right to our left, so we can't really have the camera pointing out towards the water too much. Maybe you could, but yeah, breaking all these things. Really important note here. There's a bench right here. Do not break this bench. If you break this bench, Dimitri will hear it if you're on a normal pace. If you're on a really weird pace throughout this, maybe he won't hear it. But if you're on a pace where you can break that and get away with it, you're in a weird situation where I don't even know exactly how to coach you or what to say. So skip that. Instead, these two objects are going to respawn from earlier. So we break those again. And we're still running. We're not going back on the roof this time. We're going to stay to the street. Now, if we're on a really good pace, we cleared all the items in that kind of circle we just ran quickly, there's a chance that Dimitri can hear our running here. So look at the top left. Okay. It didn't vibrate. There was no signal in the HUD that someone could hear you. Keep a close eye on this. As you get better at this and start getting faster throughout this section, there's a chance that you'll go too fast. So what I do is as I'm making that movement across to the left here, again, keeping our camera, I get my camera a bit more right. I think it'd be okay if you turn the camera a little left, but this camera is actually probably pretty good because you really don't want guards on the patio. And again, the game is trying to spawn guards at the edge of your screen. It's not spawning guards in the center. It will sometimes if they're behind an object, like what just happened with this flashlight guard. It's kind of a complicated system. You see that guard, he basically spawned in the center of the screen, but he spawned because he's hidden. Guards can also spawn just for being at the edge. Even this, a camera that's this far left, is probably safe. But if you wanted to be even safer, you could keep it even further right to ensure. I think my camera is normally about this left, and it's fine. Like 99.99% of the time. I don't think I really ever spawn small guards here. That's not where this job goes wrong for me nowadays. But break this stuff again, all the same stuff that's respawned. We're farming, we're farming, we're farming. Now, here's one of the really nice things about practicing this job while you have an episode run timer or even a full game timer going, is a kind of rule of thumb that Beaver and I have used, and I think Beaver mainly came up with, is that we're about to start a super jump chain here at the end. And ideally, you want to be starting that super jump chain around 238 to 240 into the job. Now, if you're practicing this and you're not in the middle of a run, what you can do is you can just set up a timer to start, let's see, around 10 seconds, I think. Around 10 or 9 seconds, if you just have a timer and you split when you exit the safe house as you're practicing this, you can achieve the same timer that you would see in full game, basically. So let's get back up here. So we're keeping an eye on this. Depending on, you don't really have to worry about getting too far away from Dimitri anymore. Again, still keeping your camera towards the wall to prevent guards from slowing Dimitri down and interfering with the super jump. Glitch high jump to get up to this rope. It's good to feel confident in this movement here, because if you get kind of stuck on it or things go wrong, that can be troublesome. But you see, we make it here around 237, and I go for it. 237 is really fine. I wonder if I slow down or anything. No, I just go for it at 237. So also a fine time. You can see I wait here a tiny bit at the end. So if you want, we could change the values. You can drop around 237. That seemed perfectly safe to me. But what we're doing here is we're setting our grounded position close to this treasure, and we're going to jump across the ground in that weird way you just saw where we don't update our grounded position. Super jumping in slide 2 is really weird. Basically, what you're going to want to do is practice this when you're not in the job. The job adds a lot of pressure, especially as maybe it's your first time doing it with the camera backwards like this, because this is tricky. This is not easy. But you press square right before you hit the ground, and then you just mash X really hard. I think it's like a 4 or a 6 frame window or something. It's somewhere around there. I don't remember numbers. It's fine. And you're going to want to chain that back and back, all the way back here to where Dimitri's going. Again, I'm keeping my camera this way, basically until I kind of jump down off the patio to this lower section, and then I start turning it left. Now, if you turn your camera left too early, you can spawn a flashlight guard here, which basically means you have to abort the super jump. Usually if I spawn a flashlight guard there, I think I panic, just grab onto this pipe because that's safe, but maybe you could super jump over to here or something. I don't know. But ending this super jump, you want to land on the railing where your position won't be set up. Now, landing on this railing can be tricky. It's pretty narrow, and if you fall into the water too early, if you fall into the water before the end cutscene has started, you will warp back up to the treasure and you will fail because you're too far away to see Dimitri put in the code here. Now, generally, I like to be on, you don't have to exactly be in this spot here, but these posts on the fence are a bit wider than just the railing themselves. So if you're not in a rush, it can be a safer place to land on. And when you have a little extra time, like I do here, you can take one extra super jump, to make sure that you're safe and you don't have to move as much to get to the railing, so it's easy to land on. Now, things about doing the ending. As you can see in the video here, I jump, and while I'm midair, you can see I jump over the water, and the black flash, that's the water damage that we're taking. This cutscene will play, blah, 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 blah. Shut up. And you'll see I spawn up here, which the camera has to move up to a lot to like catch up to where you are. So that's really nice. But a couple words of danger about the ending are, again, even if you get on this railing, if you jump into the water too bad, that's if you jump into the water too early, that's bad. Don't do that. Another thing is that if you're too far like back, like up here, and you try to jump out into the water with a single jump, sometimes I've seen that fail you for being too far away from Dimitri as well. So be careful. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for Dimitri to begin to turn left. When I see him kind of start to turn left, I don't know if I actually do it exactly well here, but that's kind of a cue that I had been using, is I wait for Dimitri to start to turn left, and then I single jump. I specifically single jump. And I single jump towards him, not like directly out into the water or like away and back. That's scary. Jump towards him, but over the water. And it works perfectly. The cutscene will start. You'll hit the water. It'll all be chill. One thing you can do, or sometimes will happen by accident if you make this jump out into the water, but you ledge grab or something, is you don't even have to jump into the water as this cutscene's starting. This is just something that's pretty advanced and fast. It's not required. You could just wait on this railing if you want, or if you've like had it fail a couple times, and then as the job ends, then you can run into the water, and that will still warp you up, and that would still be way faster than running back up to the treasure. But in full game, really the most important thing in this job is to just not fail it. So if the super jump goes off the rails or something sketchy, do everything you can to just not fail. Okay? Yeah, I think that's about it. One thing that I will mention that I don't think I covered at all is ideally, what ideal coin count should you have by the end? Now, this kind of depends on if you choose to farm some coins, like on satellite sabotage, and how much you get in like breaking and entering and stuff. But generally, a good coin count is considered greater than like 160. If you have like 150-ish, like a mid 150, 155, something like that, that's pretty good. That's playable. I got 142. This is bad. It's not like run killing or anything, obviously. This is my PB, but it's far from ideal. So I couldn't even tell you exactly why. It looked like I farmed pretty well throughout this, but something went wrong. But yeah, there you go. 22 minutes. Perfect place to stop. If you have any further questions, always feel free to reach out. I don't mind making these kind of live tutorials. They're pretty easy. And this job's very hard. Even like veterans will still occasionally fail this. So don't feel bad. Keep practicing it, and I'll see you in the next video.